What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, I think we all must have forgot just how good Mr. Calvin Kattar is. You know, Max Holloway is just something special. And so we saw what Max did to Calvin in January of last year, and then we've seen what Giga has done since then. And then I know I was guilty of it. You picked Calvin to win, but I just thought that Giga was going to come in there and be way too much for the Massachusetts native. I was way off. Calvin Kattar has come back with a vengeance. He's better than he was before. He's clearly a 5-round fighter. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I was blown away with Calvin Kattar, but to be honest, I thought in that first round that your prediction was going to be spot on. We were going to see a Giga finish because he came out just like he always does and threw heavy shots, really crisp hands, and really crisp kicks, and I was just blown away. I was like, oh, God, this is going to be a long night for Calvin. And sure enough, he was able to utilize some wrestling, utilize some MMA because, you know, everybody always just chalked Calvin up as a great boxer. But he is a great MMA fighter. He's mixing it up very, very well. And he was able to do some things to close the distance, take the fight to the ground. And ultimately, I think he ended up winning the first round, which would have been the only round that I would have really given Giga in the first place.
Right.
And because of that ground control and the way he was able to finish the round, he was able to take that away from him, which Giga looked really good in the beginning of. And then from then on, he knew just how tired Giga was going to get after that taxing of a style in that first round, because Giga goes out there literally to take your head off from the opening bell, and usually nobody's able to last 10 minutes doing that because it's just so hard on the body to send kicks with that velocity and do it for so long. So he started to slow down, and I think Calvin really picked up on that, and man, he fought a great fight. Giga Chikadze couldn't be tougher, but also Calvin Kattar couldn't be tougher either.
No doubt about that. And I thought in the beginning of the first round that my prediction was going to be safe as well, because Giga came out just throwing those vicious body kicks and creating angles and landing punches on Calvin's face. I said, this might be a rough night for Calvin. Yeah. He slipped on one of those kicks, and Calvin immediately took advantage of it. You know, one of the things that we talked about leading up to this fight was Calvin is a great boxer, but he's also a great wrestler. He has some real traditional wrestling training. He came up through the ranks. He wasn't a D1 guy or national champion or anything like that, but a very good wrestler nonetheless. And so one of the keys to victory for him was to zap Giga's energy and accumulate rounds using wrestling. So I thought Giga slipped. He capitalized on the opportunity perfectly, was able to secure that first round. 50-45 on, I think it was all three judges' scorecards. If I'm wrong, it was the majority of the judges. 2 of the 3 had it 50-45. Dominant win by Calvin. But I think he was really able to win that fight because he was able to control the range of the fight. Yeah. He was coming forward, and he demonstrated an incredible gas tank from start to finish. He was in Giga's face. Giga did a very good job of circling and not getting his back against the fence early on. But then as the rounds got on, Kattar was able to back him right to where he wanted him, stuff him out of that kicking range that he likes to operate in, and then outbox him and then work in takedowns as needed. So it was a brilliant performance by Calvin Kattar. I think his game has evolved. He took a real beating from Max Holloway, so he probably needed a couple months to heal up from that, and then right back into the cartel's gym, training, getting better, developing your skills, utilizing the skills that he already possesses, like the wrestling. And man, I think the sky is the limit for this guy. He truly has shown us that he was good before, but now he's possibly even great.
Yeah, and that loss to Max made him question if he was really a top 45er. And this fight, that happened last night, proved to him and obviously everybody else, because we all kind of had the idea that he absolutely is a top 3, top 4 featherweight in the entire world. And I think he can beat anybody on any given night. Maybe not Max Holloway, but I think he would give some trouble to Volkanovski, to Ortega, to the guys that are sitting there maybe one ranking above him. But one thing about the striking, which was so interesting last night, was going into it, everybody chalked him up as the great boxer and Giga up as the dynamic wild card who can do pretty much everything and not lose his balance. And he's able to just maneuver his body in ways that people could only dream of doing, right? And come to third round, fourth round, fifth round of that fight, Giga became a pretty much Western boxer who wasn't throwing very many kicks and was just trying to keep the fight, within punching range. And Calvin was throwing all the unorthodox spinning elbows, great clinch work, great movements on his way in and on his way out. I was really, really impressed. And Calvin Kattar showed us way more than just ones and twos and uppercuts and hooks. He showed us that he is a complete mixed martial artist and one of the most dynamic strikers in one of the most impressive striker divisions that the UFC has ever seen. 45 right now has absolutely the best lineup of strikers that the game's ever seen.
No doubt.
Look at you, Max Holloway. I mean, just remember what he did to Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, Yair Rodriguez, you got Giga Chikadze, and there's a list of guys behind them that are all just as impressive. And when you look at a division, there's kind of a makeup of it, right? And like the 70s, they're all wrestling heavy and they throw punches and bunches, but they aren't as impressive, right? The 145 division is striker heavy if we've ever seen it like that.
Yeah.
So it was really fun, but I was actually really blown away to see the tides turn completely 180 degrees and see Giga Chikadze turn into a much more singular style fighter come rounds 3 through 5, and see Calvin Kattar turn into a dynamic, spinning, mixing it up, true mixed martial artist fighter come the late rounds of the fight. So I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, something we've talked about Giga is that his style is so exhausting, and now we've seen Giga in a fight that went 5 rounds, and the late part of the third round and rounds 4 and 5, he didn't look so great. So Giga might truly be a 3-round fighter with the style that he possesses. When you're throwing heavy kicks and just whipping them like that, it's very difficult to maintain that level of energy throughout 5 rounds. So maybe he needs to go back to the drawing board and revise a little bit. Hey, we're going to throw those kicks, but only when we really see an opportunity to finish the fight or create serious damage if we're going to go forward being a 5-round fighter, which I think Giga can be. And on the flip side of that, Calvin Kattar showed us that he's got the perfect style for 5 rounds. Good boxing, excellent cardio, wrestling when needed. So I think you're going to see Calvin Kattar in main events on UFC Fight Nights, if not co-main events, possibly on pay-per-views and things like that. But looking forward to who both gentlemen might fight next. The list is pretty small, honestly. Calvin Kattar has now defeated Giga, who was ahead of him in the lineup. Chan Sung Jung is ahead of him, but he's got a date with Volkanovski, the champion. Max Holloway is ahead of him, but we all know what happened last time Kattar and Max fought. So Max will probably fight the winner of Zombie versus Volkanovski. So that really only leaves Yair Rodriguez, potentially Josh Emmett. And I don't really know who else could be a potential fight for Kattar going forward.
Yeah, there's a few people, and mid-year, there could be a 55er that jumps down and throws his name into the mix, or there could be a 35er that jumps up. Who knows what we're going to see? But as of right now, the list is very short. And like you said, Josh Emmett's one of those guys that is tough, and he's going to be hard. He's going to be a thorn in the side for a lot of those guys. He's very, very good. His wrestling's really good. I think Ortega, being that he's such a good grappler, can present a lot of problems to these strikers if he's able to close the distance. But Calvin Kattar is really in a weird position because he's going to he just did basically all the heavy lifting you need to do to become a number 1 contender, but he's not going to get that shot. No. And he knows it. He knew it going into that fight, and he knew it well after. I could see Max potentially fighting the winner of Chan Sung Jung and Volkanovski. And let's say the Korean Zombie gets the belt. Max Holloway, I would assume, would be the favorite in that match.
Oh, for sure.
I think he would likely win the fight. And then you could see maybe Calvin Kattar, if he's able to string a win together against a Josh Emmett or, even
an Ortega,
or an Ortega or something like that. Then maybe we could see a rematch for the belt, and that would be something that I'd like to see. Calvin Kattar seems like a really good guy. I'd like for good things to happen to good guys, and he deserves another crack at Max, but maybe he needs to do that later in his career, and maybe when there's something like a belt on the line, and they're kind of forced to do it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think Calvin Kattar dispels the myth that rich men can't fight, because I was looking up his background, and actually he comes from a very wealthy family up in Massachusetts. Wow. He owns an MMA promotion with somebody on his own as well that he uses as like a feeder. Grew up, with a silver spoon in his mouth and is still tough as nails. So
good for him.
maybe he's dispelling some rumors that rich men can't fight if they're, as long as they're not lazy and put the work in, which he certainly has been. But I do like the Ortega fight, and I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't think about that originally, because Yair Rodriguez is now coming off a loss as well.
Right.
And Giga versus Rodriguez, sign me up for that.
Let's see it.
Excuse me, because that's two very dynamic strikers. And so I think if you did put, I'm happy with either Josh Emmett versus Calvin Kattar or Brian Ortega versus Calvin Kattar. And let's put Giga and Rodriguez in there once Giga gets healed up and Yair is fully healed up. And I think you've got an incredible roster of guys at the top at 145. Let Max handle business with the winner of the championship fight and let all those great matchups happen in the interim. But last night, the credit goes to Calvin Kattar. Fight of the night bonus, as it should have been. That was an incredible fight. It's early in the year, but that could have been a fight. That is a fight of the year candidate.
Yeah, what a way to start the year. And I say the 45 division needs a little bit of a shuffling of the deck, but when we see where the cards lie, we're going to be really impressed either way. And I think all those matchups that we named and all the potential matchups that can happen this year and next year are really good, not only for the fighters that are in these fights, but for the fans who are just enjoying them.
Most definitely. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the content, we always appreciate a like on the video. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, we appreciate that as well. Until the next one, have a wonderful day.
Peace.